Have you ever imagined driving a car from a movie? Well, come with us as we check out 15 cool concept cars from the 60s. Number 15. Plymouth XNR Concept. Did you know that the Plymouth XNR was actually named after its cool designer Virgil Exner? And there's a really interesting story behind it. Back in the 1950s, Ford and GM were obsessed with making their car designs super flashy. Think big fins sticking out everywhere. But poor old Chrysler, specifically their Plymouth division, was struggling to keep up. So they decided to bring in Exner to create a sports car that could compete against Ford's Falcon and Chevy's Corvette. The first name for this car was Plymouth Asymmetrica, but its name was changed before it went into production. The car Exner came up with was built in Italy by Chrysler Ghia using some changes made to an existing car, the Plymouth Valiant. Unfortunately, it didn't have a very strong engine, just 6 cylinders all lined up straight. People loved seeing this unique car at auto shows, but unfortunately, Exner couldn't regain ownership of his creation when he tried. So instead, he had to say goodbye as the car ended up back with Ghia, who later sold it to someone else, specifically an excited Swiss dealer. The Plymouth XNR traveled all over and finally ended up in Canada. But it wasn't an easy ride. The car had to stay hidden during a long-lasting war before making its way to safety, where expert hands gave it new life with careful restoration work. In the end, we can't ignore the fact that Virgil Exner's design for the Plymouth XNR was super cool and brave. This two-seat car had a fresh look with an uneven shape, one side higher than the other, a big nose up front, and a special fin on its left to help wind flow over it properly as you drive. And get this, if someone were riding shotgun in your ride-or-die vehicle, they'd sit lower down compared to where you're seated behind all 4 wheels. Number 14. Chrysler TurboFlite Concept. Have you ever seen a car that looked like it was straight out of a futuristic cartoon? Well, the TurboFlite sure did. It was created by Exner and designed by Ghia as Chrysler's attempt to experiment with turbine-powered cars. The ultimate goal was to provide comfort and speed for passengers traveling on America's new interstate highways. The TurboFlite not only had an impressive turbine engine, but also boasted rising glass roofs, concealed headlights, air brakes, and even a high rear wing, which later became features in legendary cars like the Plymouth Roadrunner and Dodge Charger Daytona. Its space-age design, coupled with its powerful engine, made it reminiscent of the golden age of automobiles. Isn't it amazing how technology can transport us into different eras? Number 13. Ford Seattleite. Now let's check out the amazing time machine called Ford Seattleite. It was revealed at the 1962 World Fair in Seattle and had some crazy yet fascinating ideas. For example, you could change its front end as per your need, use a small one for city driving to save fuel, or add a bigger one when going on highways for more power. They even thought of installing tiny nuclear reactors inside it. Seattleite also had an excellent 4-wheel steering system that made sure you didn't slip off while driving like F1 racing cars. Interestingly enough, this car came with GPS navigation systems way before they were common. Drivers got real-time road updates along with weather information. Moreover, the body of this car was very flexible so that it would adjust well to any changes needed. Engine customization enabled smooth computer control too. I know all these things sound far-fetched now, but who knows? Maybe someday soon we'll have such advanced automobiles available right here. Number 12. Ford Mustang Concept. Did you know that the original Ford Mustang was completely different from the one we see today? Way back in 1962, before it hit showrooms across America, a team called Fairlane at Ford was already thinking about future car designs. They came up with something called the Mustang Y concept, which wasn't even close to being an American muscle car. Instead, they wanted their own version of small European sports cars like Triumph and Sunbeam. The design for this early prototype had some surprising features. Rather than having its V8 engine under the hood up front, like many American classics, or tucked away discreetly towards the rear side end, Mustang's small yet powerful V4 beast sat right behind the driver's cabin, sending power straight to rear wheels, citing improved handling experience unlike no other. It may not have been what Americans expected, but John Nahr, who designed them, felt differently. He named his creation after memories he had as a child watching P-51 fighter planes zooming overhead during World War II battles, all while trying to be a more fuel-efficient transportation option idealized by Europeans. In short, it's wild how far things can go when designers start putting pen to paper on potential models way ahead of time, sometimes leading themselves down unexpected paths. Number 11. OSI Silver Fox Prototype. Italy's OSI didn't want to be left behind other countries that were experimenting with fancy car designs. So in 1967, they introduced their racing model called the Silver Fox at the Italian Motor Show. This new car was created with one main goal: to go fast by reducing air resistance and improving aerodynamics. Also, it could compete in the super tough Le Mans race. The coolest thing about the Silver Fox is its clever design, where there are two different sections on the body, which makes it way more streamlined than regular cars. It also has a tiny engine, only 1 liter, tucked away beside the passenger seat. How cool is that? But wait, there's even more special stuff going on here. It had 3 separate wings between those 2 compartments. Nobody else had ever done anything like this before. These designers predicted future technology trends decades ahead of everyone else. Sadly, the Silver Fox couldn't achieve what it set out for due to financial issues. But who knows what might have happened if they did. Number 10. Lamborghini Marzal Concept. We all fell in love with the Lamborghini Asada. It was a family car that could fit 4 people, but it looked super cool because of its low design and powerful V12 engine from way back when. But did you know there's an even cooler secret about where this car came from? The Marzal Prototype Fucho is what inspired the Asada. This was another car made by Lamborghini's founder as a really fancy thing to show off at big events like auto shows. He thought it would be better than spending lots of money on ads. The Marzal was crafted by Marcello Gandini at Burton, using the suspension, steering, and brakes from the Asada. They also utilized half of the V12 engine block from its brother and transformed it into a 2.0-liter inline-6 powerhouse situated in the back end of this beauty. This clever design allowed for an ultra-low front end with 6 headlights tightly arranged underneath to create a striking visual appeal. Interestingly enough, various metal blocks were added, including some small weights to balance out its ground clearance just right. To enter inside this stunning ride, you had to take advantage of giant gull-wing doors that were almost entirely made up of glass, which only adds more allure to it all. Furthermore, when seated comfortably within, one could not help but notice how elegantly upholstered everything looked, shimmering silver throughout, making every experience unforgettable, as if traveling through time itself. Number 9. Dodge Deora Concept. Do you remember playing with Hot Wheels cars as a kid? If so, 2 car models might ring a bell: the Dodge Deora and the Marzal. But did you know that the Deora was actually made by 2 brothers from Detroit, Mike and Larry Alexander, who teamed up with designer Harry Bentley Bradley from California? Bradley had just seen the new Dodge pickup truck called AOO and got inspired to create something special. He moved key parts of the engine to fit on top of it at the back, including the transmission, water tank, and fuel tank. It worked great except for one problem. There wasn't much space left over inside. But Bradley figured out an awesome solution. He hid them under a hardcover and used holes in the floor for cool air to come through. By moving around all those engine parts, they were able to create one amazing feature: 2 front doors that opened up separately. And get this, the windshield could move too. With just the push of a button, it separated from its metal base below so passengers could easily climb into their seats. To make things even cooler, they put in this fancy steering wheel with a dragster-style grip, but made sure your feet didn't have far to reach down for pedals. The whole car was such a marvel that Dodge wanted it back from Alexander Brothers so they could show off how innovative the car design had become. So, can you imagine driving around feeling famous because everyone is checking out your sweet ride? Number 8. Holden Hurricane Concept. If you're into retro style with a futuristic twist, the Holden effigy is your car. But if you want to see what cars will look like in 10 years, then check out another cool concept model from Holden called the Hurricane. The Hurricane has an innovative flip-front design where the front section moves forward for easy access while also cutting away part of its sides. Once inside, you'll love how comfy it feels since its seats automatically adjust downwards, making entry pleasant. Additionally, under its hood boasts a mid-mounted V8 engine with advanced navigation system assistance that helps drivers reach their destination without any stress on unfamiliar roads using embedded strips and roadways as guidelines. Moreover, this vehicle holds some modern-day gems such as automatic climate control, comfort RON self-tuning radio so passengers can listen to whatever music they want without touching dials themselves or accidentally fiddling around trying different stations during transit downtime. And even comes equipped with reverse camera functionality thanks to CCTV screen technology situated conveniently located centrally behind your steering wheel dashboard panel display too. Holden thinks this car is such a game changer that they're calling it their research vehicle just because it shows off how cool cars could be one day. Now we'll just have to sit around twiddling our thumbs until then. Number 7. AMC Amitron. Did you know that there were electric cars long before the ones we see on the streets today? Back in 1967, a company called American Motors Corporation made one of these cool and efficient vehicles. It was called the Amitron. But even though it had a unique pyramid shape and small size, people weren't quite ready for it at the time. But here's where things get exciting. Its cool features. The AMC Amitron was an electric car that could go up to 150 miles on a single charge. It had a cool, futuristic design with lots of sharp angles and edges. The designers were very smart and made it efficient by reducing the resistance from things like rolling or wind drag. Because of this, they were able to make the car lighter too, so you didn't need as much power to get moving. Even though it looked small, 3 people could fit inside in just 1 row of seats. Let's all agree that AMC was way ahead of the game when it came to improving transportation for our planet. Number 6. Chevrolet Astro III. Back in the 1960s, Chevrolet came up with some cool concept cars, but one trio of models stood out from the rest. They were called Astros. These 3 cars were made between 1967 and 1969, with a new model released each year. The most impressive Astro was the third one, aka Astro III. It had a super sleek design that looked like it only had 3 wheels at first glance, but actually 2 of its wheels were just very close together. Another thing that made Astro III special was it used something called gas turbine engine, which was brand new technology back then. Despite this innovation not becoming widely popular for regular car use afterwards, Chevy's creativity inspired lots of designers who went on to shape future electric vehicle development trends. All told, even though Astro III wasn't commercially successful as far as sales numbers go, perhaps because these vehicles have such a unique appearance, more people will know about them over time and be encouraged to incorporate their avant-garde designs into their own works. Number 5. Dodge Flitewing. The Flitewing, also known as Dodge's flying car in 1961, was not just any ordinary dream car at that time. It was more of an idea and contained unique features like power-operated side windows, a departure from the usual manually cranked ones. The front grille looked grander than luxury models we see today from BMW or Lexus. Inside, there were 4 sporty leather seats with numerous auxiliary controls on the driver's door, even turn signals. That might have been inconvenient for drivers who weren't used to it yet. Though designed in Detroit by Ghia but manufactured in Italy too, it had immense power fueled by a potent V8 engine, all very well packaged inside one stunning concept vehicle. People were raving about this new creation because they knew something truly special was happening here. Number 4. Ford Gyron. The Gyron is a cool car that has only 2 wheels and was designed by Alex Tremulous, who also made the Tucker 48 car look awesome. Instead of regular cars with metal bodies, the Gyron uses fiberglass to make it lighter. Pretty neat, right? But because it's so different from other cars, balancing while driving was a big challenge for Tremulous when designing the sweet ride. He had an idea to use something called a gyroscope, but didn't end up using one in the final design because they're really expensive. Instead, he used stabilizing bars which help keep riders safe at speeds no faster than 5 miles per hour. Unfortunately, after just 1 year on display here in America at the Henry Ford Museum, the full-size model burned down. It must have been tough for them back then without computers and technology to recreate such complicated elements quickly. Fast forward half a century later though, fans were thrilled when someone auctioned off their super detailed scale model version, selling for over $400,000. Crazy, right? Number 3. Chevrolet Testudo. Have you ever heard of the Chevrolet Testudo, a unique concept car that was showcased at the 1963 Geneva Motor Show? It was based on the Corvair platform and designed by Giorgetto Giuaro, who worked for Burton at the time. What made it stand out from other cars of its time was its sleek design with a front hinge canopy instead of conventional doors. This feature allowed passengers to easily step in and out without any hassle. Unfortunately, after an accident, this one-of-a-kind prototype suffered extensive damage until it received restoration in the 1990s, thanks to which we can still appreciate Giorgio Giuaro's visionary design talent today. Isn't it fascinating how skillful designers like Giuaro have not only pushed innovative boundaries, but also kept their concepts alive despite adversities many years later? Number 2. Chevrolet Monza GT. Have you heard about the Chevrolet Monza, introduced in 1962? It was similar to a car called Testudo and both were based on Corvair's design. However, there's one big difference. Monza had its engine at the front. Can you believe it created a mid-engine layout instead of being rear-wheel drive like other cars back then? Do you know what's even cooler? The third-generation Corvette that came out 5 years later shared some features with Monza too. But wait till I tell you this, while Monza had a unique canopy hinged at the front, thankfully they did not include it in the Corvette. Did we mention Chevy made another version of Monza just after 1 year? Convertible SS? Fun fact, both versions showcased how creative and bold Chevrolet could be when designing new models. These inventions helped improve Chevrolet's product line further by diversifying its offerings across different segments. Number 1. Chevrolet Rondine. Chevrolet didn't lend much of a hand to the Rondine project. They just sent over their Corvette car frame across the ocean for Pininfarina in 1963. That's when Tom Charda came up with an incredible new look, giving it some distinct European flavor and turning this American classic into something truly extraordinary. But that was only one of Charda's great designs. He went on to create another masterpiece, the Fiat 124 Spider. You can see a few similarities between both cars, especially at first glance from behind. But downsizing everything would have been impossible without affecting its style or function, which meant close collaboration and specifically designed bodywork made sense. Pin and Fanina had held on to Rondine for many years after it rolled off the production floor, but ultimately decided they need space too, so someone else could own this unique car as well. The story shows how Chevrolet worked together brilliantly with Pininfarina, showcasing creativity and innovative thinking by them all. Indeed, what an exciting moment in automotive history. We're done checking out 15 cool cars from the good old days, and we hope you remember some fun memories of how things used to look. If you enjoyed it, please hit like and subscribe so we can keep sharing more awesome stuff with you. And don't forget to leave a comment below telling us what's on your mind.